guys, in this video I'm going to explain and give some examples on how to do the My Opinion section so that way you know exactly what you need to be successful. You can go ahead and open up this My Opinion example PDF, and that's going to help a lot. Alright, when you do open it up, it should look something like this. So before we even start, we're just going to go ahead and think about your answer to this question. Now that we've done the background research and talked about freedom of speech in class, go ahead and think about what limitations, if any, should there be on the freedom of speech in school. Okay, so in other words, what should the school tell you you can and cannot say in school? Your answer might be something like, there should be no limitations on the freedom of speech. Students should be able to say whatever they want in school. You might say that there should be a lot of limitations on the freedom of speech, that the school should have total control over what students say. You might be somewhere in between. You might say there should be some limitations to the freedom of speech, meaning that there are just some things that students should not say in or outside school. All right, so once you kind of have your answer, you figured out where you fall in one of these three options, you can go ahead and start writing your claim. Your claim is just going to answer this question in a complete sentence. What limitations, if any, should there be on the freedom of speech at school? Example number 1. If you're a student that said there should be some limitations, your claim might look something like this. There should be some limitations to the freedom of speech at school. If you were a student that said there should be no limitations, students should be able to say whatever they want, your claim might look something like this. There should be no limitations to the freedom of speech at school. If you were a student that said there should be a lot of limitations, like the school should have total control, your claim might look something like this. There should be a lot of limitations to the freedom of speech at school. All right, the next thing that you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and take your claim and explain it a little bit more, giving 3 pieces of evidence, 3 examples, just to explain more. Okay? So if you said there should be some limitations to the freedom of speech at school, one of your pieces of evidence to explain a little bit more could look something like this. For example, if a student is getting bullied, the school should be able to punish the student. Okay? This is a good piece of evidence for this claim because it's giving a specific example of when the school should limit students' free speech. Okay? If you choose this one, you might also choose to include an example of when it's not okay for the school to limit free speech. Okay. Claim number 2, so example number 2. If you were a student that said there should be no limitations to the freedom of speech at school, like students should be able to say whatever they want, your evidence could look something like this. Students should have the same freedom of speech in school as they do outside of school. This is a good piece of evidence for this claim because it's explaining a little bit more why they think students should have no limitations to the freedom of speech at school. Okay, last one. If you were a student that said that there should be a lot of limitations to the freedom of speech at school, like the school should have total control, a good piece of evidence for this one would be all the students are representing the school, so the school should get to decide what they are allowed to say or wear. This is a great piece of evidence for this claim because it's explaining why they think the school should have total control. If you need any help or if you want me to check over your evidence before you submit it, feel free to message me on Schoology, send me an email, ask in class, of course, or you can always call or text that Google Voice phone number 304-853-0426. See you later, guys.